Command Point is sponsored by Crossfire Games. Use code CommandPoint25 at checkout to get 5% off your next purchase. Link in the description. Hello everybody and welcome back to Command Point. My name's Ryan and in today's video we're going to be taking a look at one of the new teams from the Blood and Zeal Kill Team box set, of course, the Goremongers. If you're interested in checking out the Sanctifiers after watching this video, make sure and go and check out Shane's review, also on this channel. Before we dive into this new team, guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. That way you don't miss out on any of our upcoming future Kill Team content. So the Goremongers are a 8 operative team, 8 of course being the blessed number of corn. Very appropriate, very cool. They are led by a Blood Herald. And then you select 7 operatives from the following list: Aspirant, Blood Taker, Impaler, Inciter, Skull Claimer, and Stalker. Other than Aspirant operatives, your kill team can only include each operative above once, of course. For archetypes, we have Seek and Destroy and Recon. Very good. So the faction rules for the Goremongers are a little bit wordy, but I'll do my best to kind of speed through this for you guys. So first off, they have Runes of Corn. Each friendly Goremonger operative cannot lose more than 8 wounds per shoot action. That is such a strong ability. There's another faction in this game that's very similar to that with the the Beastmen, of course. And since all of these operatives, it looks like, have either 11 or 10 wounds, you're not going to die to a single shooting attack. It's going to take multiple shooting attacks to take an operative down. Next, we have Gore Tanks. Each friendly Goremonger operative has a Gore Tank that has 3 levels: full, half, and empty. They start the battle at half. Whenever a Gore Tank increases, it goes up 1 level. Whenever it decreases, it goes down 1 level. A Gore Tank cannot increase when it's already full or decrease when it's already empty. Whenever a friendly Goremonger operative incapacitates an operative within its control range or visible to and within 2 inches of it, you can increase its Gore Tank. Whenever a friendly Goremonger operative uses a Sanguivite rule, you must decrease its Gore Tank. So Sanguivite is each Sanguivite rule specifies when it can be used, and you must decrease the operative's Gore Tank to do so. You cannot use the same Sanguivite rule more than once per activation or counter action, and you cannot use more than 2 Sanguivite rules per activation or counter action. You cannot use Mania and Fury during the same activation. So what exactly can you do with Sanguivite? Well, first, you can rejuvenate during a friendly Goremonger operative's activation or counter action. Before or after it performs an action, that operative regains 2d3 lost wounds. We have Mania. During a friendly Goremonger operative's activation, before or after it performs an action, until the start of that operative's next activation, add 1 to its APL stat. That's nice. That's nice. There's Fury. During a friendly operative's activation, before or after it performs an action, that operative can perform 2 fight actions during that activation, and the second one is free. And of course, you can't use Fury and Mania together. That would just be too crazy. Next, we have Rake. So when a friendly Goremonger performs the charge action, when that operative finishes moving during that action, you can inflict D3 damage on 1 enemy operative within its control range. Surge. When a friendly Goremonger operative performs the charge or reposition action, until the end of that action, add 1 inch to that operative's move stat. Finally, we have Rage. When a friendly Goremonger operative performs the fight action, until the end of that action, add 1 to the attack stat of that operative's melee weapons. Next up here, we have the strategy ploys. Enhanced Violence. Whenever a friendly operative's Gore Tank is half, its melee weapons have the balanced weapon rule, and whenever they are full, its melee weapons have the relentless weapon rule. Augmented Endurance. Whenever an operative is shooting a friendly operative, if that friendly operative's Gore Tank is half, you can reroll 1 of your defense dice, or full, you can reroll any of your defense dice. Gory Tenacity. Whenever a friendly operative is fighting or retaliating the first time your opponent strikes it during that sequence, have the damage inflicted rounding up. So that's nice, kind of like a a team-wide pseudo... Well, I mean, it's team-wide damage reduction in melee for 1 CP. It's not nothing. I like that a lot. Next is Hunt for Blood. Select one friendly operative. If it has a conceal order, change it to engage. Then it can immediately perform a free charge action, but cannot move more than 3 inches during that action. So you can get up close and personal on conceal. Then in your strategic phase, do a free charge action. Switch your order to engage, as long as within 3 inches. So a lot of cool plays you can do with that there. Next, we have our Firefight ploys. Unbridled Aggression. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly operative is fighting during an activation in which it's performed the charge action at the end of the roll attack dice step. Until the end of the sequence, that operative's melee weapons have the severe weapon rule. Gorethirst. Use this Firefight ploy when you would counteract. You can do so with one friendly operative that has a conceal order, but you must change its order to engage, and it can only perform the charge, fight, or shoot action during that counter action. A lot of flexibility with this team with regards to its action economy and how you can react to your opponent's moves with this one. Destructive Demise. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Gore Monger operative is incapacitated. Inflict damage determined by that friendly operative's Gore tank on one enemy operative that is within that friendly operative's control range. Inflict D3 if empty, D3 plus 1 if full, D3 plus 2, or excuse me, D3 plus 1 if half, and D3 plus 2 if full. Last, we have Lacerate Flesh. Use this Firefight ploy when a friendly Goremonger operative with an empty Gore tank is activated or counteracts. Increase that operative's Gore tank. At the end of that activation or counteraction, decrease its Gore tank. You cannot use this decrease to use Sanguivitae rule. If you cannot decrease its Gore tank, inflict D3 damage on it. So now, guys, let's finally get into the data sheets for these operatives, starting, of course, with the leader, the Goremonger Blood Herald. He is a 2 APL model with a 7-inch move, a 5-up save, and 11 wounds. He has the Icon of Corn, which is a 4 attack, hitting on 2s, damage 4/4, range 8, and saturate weapon. He also is armed with a Chain Blade, 4 attacks on 3s, 4/5 with rending. He has Korn's Favor, so once during each of the operative's activations, if its Gore tank is empty, you can increase its Gore tank. You just get that for free. That's pretty nice. And then we also have Impending Apotheosis. Once per battle, when an attack dice inflicts damage on this operative, you can ignore that inflicted damage. So a once per game just to scratch for its normal damage, right? When an attack dice inflicts damage on this operative. Ooh, so you can ignore crit damage. That's very nice. This is a beefcake leader that wants to get stuck in early and just be your star player, basically. Get all the kills. He wants to be the champion. Next, we have the Goremonger Aspirant. 2 APL, 7-inch move, 5-up save, and 10 wounds. I'm just going to quickly skim through the rest of the team. It looks like they all share those same characteristics. The aspirants are armed with auto pistols, which are 4 attacks on 4s, damage 2/3, range 8, and chain glaives, 4 attacks on 3s, 4/5 rending. They have the obsessive bloodlust rule, so whenever this operative ends the fight action, if it's no longer within control range of enemy operatives, it can immediately perform a free charge action, even if it's already performed the charge action during that activation, but cannot move more than 2 inches during that action. Doing so doesn't prevent it from performing the charge, dash, or reposition action afterwards during that activation. Next is the Goremonger Bloodtaker, armed with a auto pistol and the Ritual Blade, 4 attacks on 3s, damage 3/5, and it has the Ritual keyword, or, special weapon rule. So Ritual, whenever this operative is using this weapon the first time you inflict damage on an operative within its control range during that sequence, you can increase this operative's Gore tank. Note, this is cumulative with the normal rules for increasing its Gore tank. For example, if it incapacitates an enemy or if it incapacitates an operative within its control range. For 1 AP, it can perform the Transfusion Ritual, which you decrease the operative's Gore tank, and instead of using the Sanguivitae rule, you can increase the Gore tank of one other friendly Goremonger operative within 8 inches of this operative. Once again, Khorne's blessed number popping up. This operative cannot perform the action while within control range of an enemy operative, or if its Gore tank is empty, of course. Next, we have the Goremonger Impaler, a very interesting model. It's armed with a auto pistol. It also has the Flesh Skewer, which is both a ranged and melee weapon. Its ranged profile is 4 attacks on 3s, damage 4/5, range 8 inches, stun, drag, and pray. So drag is whenever this operative is shooting with this weapon at the start of the resolve attack dice step before inflicting damage, you can move the target up to X inches, where X is your total number of successful unblocked attack dice multiplied by 2. The operative must be moved to the location it can be placed as close as possible to this operative, determined by the X inches you chose to use. The move must be done in 1 or more straight line increments, and increments are always rounded up to the nearest inch. Whenever the target is dropping during that move, ignore the vertical distance. So you can shoot somebody with this grapple gun, basically, within 8 inches of you, and then drag it across the table to you. I think that's very cool. I love displacement effects in tabletop miniatures games. Games like MCP, displacement is huge in Marvel Crisis Protocol, so it's cool to see stuff like that show up in Kill Team. The other keyword this weapon has is Pray. Whenever this operative is shooting with this weapon in the resolve attack dice step after resolving the drag weapon rule, if you choose to, you can discard any of your successful unblocked attack dice. In other words, you can choose not to inflict damage with any number of them. So that's good in an instance where you're potentially trying to set up another kill for another enemy operative, or another friendly operative who perhaps you've selected to be like your champion for that round. Pretty cool. We have the Goremonger Inciter. This model has dual pistols, dual auto pistols. Its focused profile is 4 attacks on 3s, damage 2/2, range 8, ceaseless, devastating 1, and rending. It has a point blank profile, which is its melee weapon. 4 attacks, hitting on 3s, damage 3/4 with ceaseless and rending. For 1 AP, it can perform the dash and spray, perform a free dash action and free shoot action with this operative in any order. You can only select dual auto pistols focused for that shoot action. This operative cannot perform this action while it has a conceal order or while within control range of an enemy operative. It also has Incite the Hunt. Whenever this operative incapacitates an enemy operative from more than 2 inches away, before that enemy operative is removed from the kill zone, you can increase the Gore tank of one friendly Goremonger operative within 8 inches of that enemy operative. Whenever this operative inflicts damage on an enemy operative but doesn't incapacitate it, that enemy operative gains a bleeding token, if it doesn't already have one, during a friendly Goremonger operative's activation or counteraction, before or after it performs an action. If it's within 8 inches of an enemy operative that has a bleeding token, you can remove that token and increase your friendly operative's Gore tank. Next, we have the Goremonger Skull Claimer, armed with an auto pistol and a great chain axe, which is 4 attacks on 3s, damage 5/6 with brutal. It has the brutish ability. Whenever an attack dice would inflict critical damage on this operative, you can choose for that attack dice to inflict normal damage instead. It also has Claim Skull. So once per turning point, if that operative incapacitates an enemy operative with its great chain axe, you gain 1 CP. Okay, I don't know if that's really necessary. That's just a passive ability. If this operative kills an enemy operative, you gain a CP. Okay, what? Totally unnecessary. That's silly. Finally, yeah, this is the last operative on the team. We have the Stalker. It's armed with an auto pistol and Pick Rippers, which are 4 attacks on 3s, damage 4/5 with rending. It has the climbing picks rule. Whenever this operative is climbing, treat the vertical distance as 2 inches. regardless of how far the operative actually moves vertically. And then he also has Rooftop Stalker. So whenever this operative is fighting during an activation in which it dropped from vantage terrain, or whenever this operative is fighting against an enemy operative that's on vantage terrain, this operative's melee weapons have the Relentless weapon rule. Very cool. So finally, we are coming to the faction equipment here. First up, we have the Gory Totem. So before the battle, you can set up one of your Gory Totem markers wholly within your territory and more than 2 inches from other markers, excluding your Bloody Cadaver marker. Whenever an enemy operative within 3 inches of your Gory Totem marker is shooting, fighting, or retaliating, your opponent cannot reroll their attack dice. Next, we have Bloody Cadaver. Before the battle, you can set up one of your Bloody Cadaver markers wholly within your territory and more than 2 inches from other markers, excluding your Gory Totem marker. Friendly Goremonger operatives can perform the pickup marker action on that marker. In the ready step of each strategy phase, you can increase the Gore tank of one friendly operative that controls that marker, unless that friendly operative is within control range of an enemy operative. We have Chaos Sigil. Once per turning point, when an operative is shooting a friendly Goremonger operative at the start of the roll defense dice step, you can use this rule. If you do, worsen the X of the piercing weapon rule by 1, if any, until the end of that sequence. Note that piercing 1 would therefore be ignored. Finally, we have wrist chains. This is my favorite equipment for this faction. Once per turning point, when a friendly Goremonger operative performs the shoot action and you're selecting a ranged weapon, you can use this rule. If you do, until the end of that action, the following melee weapons are treated as ranged weapons with the range 2-inch weapon rule: Chain Blade, Chain Glaive, Great Chain Axe, ignoring its brutal weapon rule, and Pick Rippers. So everybody on the team, they now turn their melee weapons into shooting weapons, basically. So that can come in handy if you're in a weird spot where you don't want to perform a charge for whatever reason. Things that come to mind are what's the duelist? The duelist character from Legionnaires, the Flesh Taker, I think it's called, where like it always has fights first. If you're in a situation where you don't want to run into that and get fought first against, you can just run up to it with your 7-inch move and then perform an attack, and it's not going to be able to strike you back because you're not in melee. This is shooting attack. This is a team that has the tools, I think, to deal with like the good shooting teams. With the Chaos Sigils, or with the Chaos Sigil equipment, I should say. Yeah, it's a mid-range team that is not. You know what? I am gonna say tanky. I am gonna say this is a tanky team. They can only take up to 8 wounds they can only take up to 8 damage in total from a single shooting attack. They all have a lot of wounds, 10 and 11 wounds. The 5-up save, you don't really care about your 5-up save, because you have access to, your leader by himself has a once per game just to scratch. You can take your, not Hunt for Blood, what is it? Not Augmented Endurance. Yeah, the Gory Tenacity Strategic Ploy. And you can also just like heal yourself with the Sangue Vitae rule. I definitely think on paper, this is the stronger of the two teams in the box. I mean, all of these models are just literal melee monsters. It's a sick team. How I would describe, I'm scared. I'm scared of this team, and I'm scared about what this could do to the meta, really. We don't really have a lot of like incendiary takes, hot takes on the channel. I think we're pretty level-headed with our like analysis of like the meta, and we don't really like overreact. But this is a team where I'm having flashbacks to like peak Beastmen. And I know that's silly to say because it's like we're back in peak Beastmen again, in our opinion. But this is a team that's very much like Beastmen, except I feel like they might be easier to run than Beastmen. The reason I say that is because it feels like they are a push button team. Whatever you want or need in the situation, if you're budgeting your blood tanks or your gore tanks appropriately, um, you can just have it. The strongest Sanguivitae rule is of course Mania, which allows you to increase your operative's APL by 1, so you can have multiple 3 APL models moving around the table. They all have a base 7-inch move. You have a couple other ways of increasing that with like Surge, um, the what do you call it? The Stalker. You know, you're basically ignoring vertical distance, or you're just treating all vertical distance as 2. This is a very mobile team. You know, something that can keep up with like the elves movement. Man, and they just wreck house in melee combat. They can tank wounds. They just don't care, man. I think their strategic ploys are all good, except for maybe augmented endurance. I feel like you can just like play a whole game and just never use that one. Um, Gory tenacity is just a better defensive ploy to be using. Granted, it only works in melee combat, but that's where your team is going to naturally be living. Hunt for blood is great, being able to essentially charge out of conceal with a single model. Um, it is only up to 3 inches, but it's free and it's out of conceal. And then of course, the enhanced violence. You know, just buffing your melee weapons is something that you want all the time, anyways. The Firefight ploys aren't that exciting, but lacerate flesh can be very good if you're running on empty with a model. Um, yeah, it's a more elite Beastmen team. Is how I feel. And it feels like they're easier to run. You guys think this team is crazy, or am I like missing something? Am I missing like a real weakness of this team? Let me know down in the comments below. I think they're crazy. I think you're going to be seeing a lot of this team out at tournaments. Get ready because the Goremongers are coming. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you all again in the next one.